Page 43, Polonaise, Opus 40, number 1, also known as the military Polonaise. For the right hand, let's cover a few things. Rhythm-wise, if these rhythms are giving you problems, then maybe you need to back up a little bit and go back to the method book or whatever method book you're using and cover rhythms again, because it's so important you learn to do these. I'll cover it briefly, but you need to know this. 16th notes, 1 E and a 2 E and a blah. Slowly. 1 E and a 2 E and a. You see how the notes are beamed together, those beams across? You got a dotted quarter note and there's a beam that connects it to the 16th note. These are beamed in this particular piece by the beat. So beat 1 is the notes are beamed together, and beat 2 they're beamed together, and beat 3 the 4/16 notes are all beamed together. So that sort of helps you divide it up into the beats because it's in 3/4 time. So it's 1 and 2. On 2 comes the dotted eighth, the D on 2. 1 and 2 and 3. See, those are on the beat. So 1 E and a 2 E and a. You know, 1 E and a 2 E. Just go all through them. I mean, this rhythm on these two measures is all over the place. You get this second line, 1 E and a 2 E and. You got to reach up with your little finger there. Make sure you put in the rest. And then the last measure of the second line, we got triplets. Piano players have to be able to go back and forth between duple and triple time at any time. And a lot of times when the notes go quick like this, you can't count them out. They're too fast. You feel it. So it's like in the first beat of that measure, it's 1 and 2. Forget the triplets, just play eighth notes. It's 1 and 2 and. For the first two beats, 1 and 2 and. Then we put in triplets for the and of 1 is 1 and a da da. 1. You think ba 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 ba, triplet, 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 and feel it that way. Now for the fingering in that last measure in the second line, they've got thumb playing all these F sharps. I prefer to use different fingers. It's easier if you get into the habit of doing that, and which fingers you use depending on the situation and which fingers you like to use. In here, I'm going to use the first and second fingers, and I'm just going to alternate them. So it's here. So it's, because I can do this longer and easier, and I don't get so tired than using any one finger. Doesn't matter which the finger is, I get tired pretty quick, but if I can alternate the fingers, it's not so bad. So I recommend you try that. So it's on the F sharps. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Just, it works out okay. And then for the 16th notes, it's 2, 3. Well, they're fingering. That's what it is. So rhythm-wise, it's 1 and 2 and 3. The last line. And again, for all these B's, I just alternate first and second fingers. You can use some other fingers if you want. So it's starting with it's the second half of the second beat with the 16th notes. Yeah, so it's 2, 1. And I end up on 2 that way. The first note in the second measure there, I want to be on 2. So however you finger it, do it in a way so you're on 2 on that note. So for the A's, I do a 1, 2, 1. Because that's quick. And it's easier for me, once you get in the habit of it, to use different fingers. So it's 1, 2, 1. So the last line there is here. I use thumb on both of those. That sets me up for the 2, 1, 2, 1. So it's Then you'd repeat that and go on. And at the top of page 44, a different melody, a different style. Very majestic here. And the 3-5, play it with third finger and substitute fifth finger. There's other fingerings, but let's go with that. That's fine. And the second measure, 1E and a 2E. Next measure, and now it's a 3-5 again. We're playing it legato with the fingers. I like that. Next measure, if you want to play them all with thumbs, I tend to do a 1-3-2-1, but I'll leave that up to you how you finger those repeated A's. But I encourage you to use different fingers. But which fingers you use, I don't know. I still like 1 on the first one and then a 3-2-1. Same thing here on the E's. It's 2 and then a 3-2-1. And then they're saying a 3-1. Okay. And for the next line, it's a 3-1-3 for the 2 16th notes and the 8th note. Put the third finger on the C, reach up. And then here's 1-2-1. Let's look at this third line down, second measure. This chromatic run going up. They're saying a 2-1-3-1, 3-4. It's okay. They're just using a standard fingering for a chromatic scale where the third finger plays the black note. And that's okay. And then 3-4. And then back to what you were doing before at the top of the page. Same thing. Top of page 45. Look out. Accidentals coming in. They're saying 1-4. You're not holding the D flat down. It's just an eighth note. And I'm kind of encouraging you to use that fingering because if you do that, you can do that. Second finger if you want. If your hand's big enough, you can stretch. And then here, same thing, 1-4 or 2-4, I guess, if you want. And I'm using the same finger on the repeated note because this is kind of hard enough with that other note added in. Otherwise, you can do a 4-5-4. So at the beginning of that page, it's here, 4-5-4. 4-5-4. But that complicates it a little more. Maybe you don't want to go there. So use the same finger each one. Just do the best you can to get through this accurately. Now, next measure, the last measure, the first line, it's here, and the 3. And for these, they're saying 2-3-1. 1, 1. It's a lot of ones going up there. Another finger you can experiment with those 16th notes going up is instead of 2-3-1, start with 1-2-3. Then a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, and reach up with little finger. So it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4 type thing. So it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's just, that to me flows better. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, rather than 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, or 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 1, pump, pump. You have to pick the fingering that's comfortable for you, but I'll give you other ideas. And then the rest of it is the same as what we've had before. Left hand is supporting here for the most part, but occasionally it gets to do something. At the beginning it's 3-1, and then 2-1, and then the triplets. You think 1 and 2 and 3 and there's a triplet in the half beat. 1 and 2 and 3. 1 and 2 2, and 3, and. Second line, 1, and 2, and 3, and. So the rhythm's a little weird. Second line, second measure. Here, 3, 2, 3, 1, and they're saying jump up. Well, don't jump up, but move. 1 and 2, triplet. And I recommend a fourth finger on that last note because that way you're in position for the 3, 5. Second line, last measure. 5, 3. I do a 2 on the F sharp, and then a 3, 2. Next line is 5, 2, 3, and then follow their fingering. Except the last beat on the page, I do a 2, 3. That's how I do it, but their fingering is fine. Then at the top of page 44. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2. The last 2 beats of the first line, I do a 4, 3. Oh, that's what they're saying. That's okay. First measure, second line. Thumb on the C. We're just legato. We're fingering a legato. And then reach up for the last measure. 2 on the C. And here, again, we're fingering a legato. It's fine. First measure, third line, and for the last beat, it's a 1, 3. Last measure, the third line is 3. And that puts you back to where you were. Top of page 45. Here, they're saying a 1. I disagree. I would do a 2 on both of those. They're not real fast. You can do the same finger. And the next measure's 1. And then if you can reach it, use a 2 on the G, on the third measure, so you're in position. If not, you have to use a thumb. And then come up. And then it's back to what you were doing on page 43. Work it out very carefully with the fingering and the rhythm for each hand. Then go back and try and put the hands together very slowly on page 43. First measure, 1 and 2 and 3 and 2 and. See, very slowly you work these out, and you just take it a measure at a time if you have to, or a line at a time, and work out the trickiness because it's got some strange rhythms. Second line, 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. Third line. If you have to go back and do a 1 hand at a time for a bit to watch the fingering, because so work that out really, really, really slowly. The top of page 9, up here. Second line, second measure here. Now, that that takes us back to what we were doing up at the top. It's the same as that. Let's go over to the top of page 45. We're over here. Now that you got quarter notes in the left hand, hold them down. And the last measure, the first line, look out. You're here. Watch this fingering carefully. Go back to the theme you had on the other page. Type thing. Now, get that worked out very slowly and very carefully, and then go back and see if you can add in the articulation and maybe the dynamics. It's loud. That's the right hand. That's the melody. Keep the left hand down just a little bit. We want to hear that. Still keep it slow. We have staccatos. Those are important, so put them in. Nice short staccatos. So the first line. Staccatos up there too, at the end of the line. The next line. It's the same articulation we had up above, and then here, and then staccatos, and staccato in the left hand. We need the contrast between the staccatos and the legatos here. It keeps going back and forth, and it's really important. So make sure all these staccatos are there when they're marked in the music. And all of that was loud. And then we go to 44. Now it's very loud. It's fortissimo. That's the right hand. Keep the left hand a little under it. You can get loud, just not as loud. We want to hear the melody. It's here. And do the staccatos in the left hand. So, second line, second measure, it's all legato in here. You're kind of building up a little bit. We've been very loud, but actually in the second measure, the second line, you can come down to maybe a loud or even a little under loud. So you, in the third measure, they don't give you anything, but you can go in the second measure, the third line, you crescendo back up to loud as you come there. Now I do staccatos for these. I play it all staccato because that's how I feel it. The pedal's going to cover up the staccato, but I can still do it with the fingers. That's just how I feel it. And it prepares me for the last beat, which is staccato. I just do it all staccato, it's fine. Page 45, legato here. This is legato, this is a contrast. It's still loud, like very loud. It's a go. There, you're building up to there. You want to crescendo a little bit. Then you go back down to loud, like you were at the beginning. It's the same. And that's the same as it was at the beginning. Get that worked out so you can sort of get control of the dynamics. It's all pretty much loud, but you can come down a little bit in places. You just don't play it all loud. It's got to have some ebb and flow in the dynamics. And let the music dictate that to you. Where does the music tell you to do this? Where do you feel it eventually? You get all that worked out, and then we add the pedal. The pedal's going to help with the legato. Smooth things out a little bit, but we got to be careful because we don't want the pedal to get in the way of the staccatos. Those are important. And this is also marked Allegro con brio, but you can find all kinds of recordings on this. So take it slow until you can do it accurately. You can speed it up later. So we're going to keep it on the slow side here. So it's here. I'm going to push the pedal now. This is loud. This is, here we are. So if you want, push the pedal down with the notes. You don't have to lag it here. Just make sure you lift it up on those. When you play those staccatos, the pedal comes up right there. And here, lift it up on the staccato on the fourth beat. So right there. Second line, same way. And here you have to change it in the second measure. But lift it up for the staccatos, and then third measure. And again, lift it up for the staccatos. And third line down, after the staccatos in the first measure, then it's pretty much connected after that. Now they're showing a break in the pedal in the second measure there. So you get that, that's fine. It goes by so quick, nobody's going to notice if you go ahead and just legato pedal the whole thing though. But change the pedal on the second beat if you legato pedal it. Like so, at the top of page 44, again, we want to hear the staccato, so lift the pedal up when you play. Actually, just lift it up on the last beat of each measure here, whether it's staccato or not. It works out pretty well for the most part. So here, push the pedal down with the notes here. This part is legato here, and I tend to come down with the dynamics a little. Now they're pedaling all through here because they want the overtones, they want the intensity, they want the so go ahead and pedal it like they're showing here. Normally I don't like pedaling the because it blurs them, but it's sort of the atmosphere here. This is exciting, this is very loud. It's like, yeah, so just pedal it like they're showing here. For the third line. Pedal it like they're showing on 45 on the first line and measure. It's all legato here. It's intense, it's loud, but it's still legato. And lift the pedal up so there's a little silence before we go on. You see the double bars? It's a new section, so it's a. And you're back to the original. It's not quite as loud as it was at the beginning, and then you maintain that intensity from that point on all the way to the end. The last measure, up. There's no retard, there's no dying away, it's just that all the way to the end.
Cool, huh?
Not something you'd fall asleep to though.